This town hall is happening at a critical juncture in our journey. The battlefield is fierce, the enemy is relentless, and yet the greatest danger we face now does not come from La République du Cameroun alone. It comes from within. Distraction, divisions, and internal strife threaten to derail us. Anything that does not serve the primary goal of our liberation is a distraction. Personal vendettas, small power struggles, and petty fights among comrades are all distractions. Our common enemy is the occupier of our country, the République du Cameroun. We must take inspiration from our brave fighters on the ground. They fight for their lives. They shake the dust and rise after every fall. They endure betrayals, hunger, and hardship. They make mistakes, but learn from them and stay strong. They fear for their lives every day, but they never quit. If your actions slow down or weaken our struggle, then you are working against Ambazonia, whether intentionally or unintentionally. This movement is not about personalities, it's about liberation. Some of us spend more time trying to prove to others that others are wrong instead of trying to prove Ambazonia right. If you win a battle against a fellow soldier, but you lose the war to free Ambazonia, what kind of victory is that? If you defeat a comrade in argument, but surrender the struggle, how does that help our people? I say this with love, but it is the truth. Paranoia is crippling us. Some sit waiting for a reason to say, I have dismissed them. They remain patriots. Our government is the last horse standing. All of us are now 8 years older than when we started this struggle. This has taken a toll on all of us. The role I chose to play at 50, I may not be comfortable with at 58. Fact, expectations may have obviously shifted. But I ask you, if you believe that Southern Cameroon was a full-fledged country annexed by La République du Cameroun, why would you question the rationale for a government today? When Germany annexed France, did Charles de Gaulle restore a group, or did he restore or establish a government in exile? How can we say we restored our country in 2017 but reject the necessity of government? Is there a country without a government, or a government where there is no country? If a people now reject their own government, while the occupier firmly establishes his own government over them, does it not sound like endorsing the government of the occupier over them? These people are prescribing surrender as a way forward, but under a different name. But I see through it, I know you do too. Some want us to quit so they can go back and take crumbs from the master's table. And let me tell you this, a person does not resign when he or she writes a letter of resignation. We resign when we withdraw our commitment and substance from the struggle. LGA draft, you don't draft. County draft, you don't draft. Federal draft, you don't draft. Transition draft, we don't see you. Meetings you should attend to contribute your ideas, you don't attend. One day I walked into my house just as the fan came to a complete stop. A child looked at me and asked me, Papa, why did you stop the fan? I smiled and said, I didn't stop the fan. It surely stopped before I entered, even before I entered. Some of us are like that fan. We switched off long ago, but are still turning slightly because of past momentum. But eventually you come to a full stop. People think that's when you stop. The question is, will you stop before Ambazonia is free? Who will finish what we started? If everyone in this struggle do as you do now, will the struggle still be alive today or tomorrow? I use this opportunity to call back everyone who is weak and weary, who has resigned, to come back, because Ambazonia is not yet free. There is no better place than this government to serve your country. You just have to find the grace and willingness to make an effort to make it work here. If you think I am lying, ask those who left us. Ask them how market the 2025 draft Operation Countdown. The Amazonian Financial Warriors will launch the 2025 draft on March 8, 2025, this year. This year's draft is dedicated to the women of Amazonia, the Mama Amba. I want my speech to the world to end here. Thank you. Stay strong. Stay united. Long live the government of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia. Long live the Amazonia State Armed Forces. And short live this ugly story.
Good evening, fellow Amazonians, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to this exclusive interview with the President. You're watching an excerpt of the address that the President of the Federal Republic of Amazonia gave to the mega, I think that was a mega and the first town hall of the year 2025. The tagline of that address to the nation was, if you stand against your own government, you're by default establishing the government of the occupier, either knowingly or unknowingly. That is exactly what the French governor, President Paul Biya, the octogenarian, under the very close instructions of French ambassador, is working day and night to do in Amazonia. And the President is here this evening with us to respond to that. French ambassador visits Bamenda once again and made some statements that have provoked not just controversy. A lot of Amazonians believe that it is a clear-cut defiance of Amazonia's sovereignty. Let's watch that report.
The French ambassador to Cameroon have praised the efforts of the management of Alliance Française Bamenda. The ambassador was speaking on Thursday, February 27, 2025, as he visited Alliance Française Bamenda for the first time.
We have a lot of French alliance in the country, but this one is very special. It's special because we are in an Anglophone area, and important for us to make a share between the French and the English languages, because here in Cameroon everybody must speak French and must speak English, so it's very important to have this kind of structure here in Bamenda. That's the reason why I want to thank first the director of the French Alliance.
In an exchange with the partners of Alliance Française Bamenda, the ambassador promised to accompany the structure and its activities.
To the director and to all the people I saw this afternoon, that we need to do more to support these structures, because here in Bamenda, the region and also the city needs in the future to have more assets and more money, maybe to be more involved in the cultural area. The goal of this structure is to promote not only the French culture, so the culture from the young people.
To the director, these visits will change a lot at Alliance Française Bamenda.
We are receiving the French ambassador here for the first time. He promised us that so many things are going to improve in what we are doing. Before that, he is satisfied with what we have been doing. For us to know that he was satisfied, he promised us to come here in few months before the month of July to come and concretize what he promised us to do. We know the situation in which we are here. The artists also are satisfied because they really express their feelings. They really present to the ambassador their needs and really attended to all of them.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting to be a Northwesterner.
The management of Alliance Française Bamenda dressed the ambassador with the Northwest traditional regalia and offered to him and his guests a mini cultural show animated by the Bamenda dance troupe.
Now, I understand that the manifestations of the black legs or enablers you're seeing there can be quite provocative. But it is important for those who are watching to also understand that these guys are victims of the oppression and suppression of French Cameroon. One thing that I should highlight before going into the State House and take some questions from the President is the fact that there is no Alliance Française. Mr. Ambassador, was trying to translate the word. The translation of that word, if you follow the principles of formation bilingue, the way he called it doesn't rhyme. It is not correct. But he does that mistake intentionally because he is trying to anglicize the concept of Alliance Française. There is no Alliance Française in Ghana. There is no Alliance Française in South Africa or in Nigeria. In every French colony in Africa and the world, there is Alliance Française because it has a single objective: to make the people culturally to become French. And this structure or institution in itself is anger provoking. It shouldn't exist in the former British Southern Cameroons. But again, other interviews and reports has it he made a statement to say he's going to end the war. I'm sure that could probably be one of the reasons the president is here tonight. Right after the break, we'll take some questions. Stay tuned. Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are delighted to have you for an exclusive interview for the first time this year, 2025. You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Paddy, and thank you all televiewers around the world. Thank you for having me tonight. Thank you.
Tell us why you're here. I know you already hinted us that you will be reacting, but maybe you want to tell us exactly why your reaction is imperative, or you'll be responding. I'm sorry.
First off, Mr. Marchand, the Ambassador Marchand, he was a French general, a general in the French army. So he's a retired general in the French army. So I tried to do some research, and I will make sure that we know who he is. You know, the person a country sends to another country as an ambassador will help us to have an understanding of how they define the relationship, and that what their objectives are, what they want to achieve in that country. We always determine who they send. Mr. Marchand is a soldier, and I found out that his work within the French army centered around defense, security, and strategic affairs. So who you have there is a soldier, it's not a diplomat. So it was, and what people don't emphasize is that he did not come to Amazonia alone. He came along with 6 EU ambassadors, people that otherwise will not be allowed to visit anywhere in the southern Cameroons. That he brought 6 of them, 6 EU ambassadors. That is the strategist in this man. That's the military strategist. He came there to do what is called in military diplomacy the show of force. He wanted to show the world, these ambassadors, because I know I can tell you what is happening now in Europe. They're worried about how the French is responsible for the problems on the continent that are bringing people, refugees, thousands upon thousands of refugees to enter Europe. So the pressure is on the French to find solutions instead of being part of the problem. So these ambassadors were carried along, and this man being a soldier, he's a military. I can call him as the French military advisor to the French government. That's who he is. So he had to orchestrate this visit to our Midland zone, so that he will carry these people along, telling them, you guys, you think that to show you that our partner is working, our military partner, our proxies are really working and peace is returning. I will take you to Bamenda to see for yourself. So he took 6 of them along. So, and they mobilized the Cameroon military that gave him all the backing, and we knew about the movement. So that is what he went there to show off, to convince the European partners that they should not be worried, they should stop putting French under pressure. Something is going on, peace is returning. So he made that bogus statement promising how he will bring, he's working ardently to bring peace. How do you work to bring peace with who? In a conflict of 2 parties, you are not involved with the other party. So how are you going to bring peace except the military way? So that is the logic. That is why I wanted Amazonians to see him for who he really is, to take off the cloak, to take off the mask, and for the international community to see what games he is playing. It's a lie. It's a lie. He has nothing to do with culture. That's not his experience. He has nothing to do with political or diplomatic resolutions of conflicts. No. All he knows is military strategic diplomacy, how to use force. The French sent him there to emphasize their position that they would, through defense and their security strategies, bring peace by force in the southern Cameroons. That is what he came there to present. If there's anything added to it, he came to do an evaluation so that he will go back and strategize more with their proxy to continue the war. Anybody who believes him is not smart enough.
I understand, Mr. President, that your responsibility this evening is first of all to educate the people so that they rally behind you with your vision, understanding the sole objective, which you've articulated very, very well. But another responsibility would also be to respond. Earlier on, you clearly stated with the excerpt that we just showed there that there is need to have government as an institution established, and there is need for a people to support that. We now understand that his visit, the Alliance Française structure, is a clear establishment not just of French Cameroon's government and their institution. It is France insisting to implant the Franco-Cameroon hegemony. Do you feel a little bit disappointed that this is still happening 8 years into the war?
Well, he tried to stage it as a visit to the Alliance Franco-Camerounaise, which he used as a platform to bring the CPDM cohorts together and make promises to them. Promises such as development promises and so on. And they use that as a platform to talk. Because he knows that it is very awkward for any ambassador of another country to come to posted to another country, to travel, to meet a people in that country and begin to make promises. That sounds like a political campaign tour. Ambassadors don't do that. So he decided to use Alliance Franco-Cameroon, and that is their objective. They use it as a platform to promote their agenda. And their agenda is one of assimilation, the total assimilation of the people of Southern Cameroon. And this is the war of assimilation. So if anyone who comes there to promote assimilation, he came to promote the war, because this is a war of assimilation. Because as Paul Biya himself said it, they tried to do it without bullets. It did not succeed. So they are fighting now to succeed. So it is a war of assimilation. So he used that platform to come and make his statement so that it will not appear as if he is doing a meet the people tour in a country that is not his country. So he has to pretend that he has an office there. And that is the number one colonial office that, especially when it comes to cultural diplomacy, that is one of the offices that should not exist in the Southern Cameroons. Because it is what the French gave La République du Cameroun as a tool to assimilate us. Yes, to assimilate us. They talk of alliance. No, Alliance Franco-Camerounais. No, that is just for us. It is in Boya and Bamenda. Elsewhere you have French Cultural Center, Centre Culturel Français, Centre Culturel. That's what you have. When they start talking of alliance, it means that they are trying to. That is their attempt to francophonize us and make us. He started by saying that everybody in Cameroon must speak French. Then he remembered in his subconscious that he should also have English. No, it is never a must that people should speak English, because their very presence in our country is to make sure that English is wiped out. That's what we have seen, not just by the cultural centers, but by the multiplication of bilingual schools, which are 95% of them all concentrated in our country. And what followed, not just with the educational system, but with the judicial system and with every other system in place.
Now, Mr. President, you have also mentioned that you were aware of this mission. During a wartime, it is anger-provoking to see a colonialist freely gallivant in a war tone for propagandist agenda. Do you feel disappointed that nothing was done by the state army to either interrupt this activity that was freely done in the epicenter of the war in Amazonia?
Well, a war is not judged by one battle. That's just a battle. You rather win the war than to win a battle. So, of course, if we were able to do what we needed to do in that occasion, considering the level of mobilization that he mobilized to assure 6 other EU ambassadors that they can accompany him, you can imagine the level of mobilization that he did. We are guerrillas. Our boys are guerrillas. They are not conventional fighters. We don't have the conventional equipment, and that we can have a fair fight with them in a face-to-face conventional confrontation. So we are smart. The guerrilla does not shoot to outshoot the enemy, but he uses the resources that he has in his forest and has the upper hand. And the rest he rules by fear. And so that he obtains his objective. When he makes the area ungovernable, he governs. We govern by making it ungovernable for them. So we are not, that's just a battle. And I want to say that the real war is not about stopping him from making a speech. He could still make those speeches from Yaoundé. He could make them and disappear the next moment and go away. He can drop in an helicopter and make a speech and go. The real battle, the next battle is the implementation of his agenda. That's the main thing. He promised something. He promised something that he is going to do. That is the war. That's where the warfare comes in. Because he promised that he is going to support developmental projects. So let us see. What does he mean by developmental projects in a war zone? Is that a statement in denial that there is no war again, the war is over? So we're waiting for that. Let him try. Let him bring that. Then he also promised how he's going to bring. They are doing everything. They are doing with who? If I may ask, how many Amazonian state armed forces are involved in his efforts to find solutions? How many of our civil society on the ground, I mean Ambazonia civil society, are involved in his effort to find a quick solution? And how many in this government of the Southern Cameroon? I don't want to talk about me, maybe I am a little further from him. How many in this government, or which any branch of this government, has he contacted that he says he is finding a solution? And how can you find a solution without the parties? So those are lies. Those are deceptive statements to deceive and pacify his EU colleagues, who are getting more and more very worried, more and more worried about the attitude of the French on the continent, which is costing them, because many of them in the EU are riding on the backs of the French. They believe that if the French are in charge, they have a way. But when the French are losing, they are losing, and they think that this is not correct. The French should rather be on the side of finding solutions than being part of the problem. That is what the EU thinks about everything the French have been assuring them and doing behind them. So he thought that he would assure them by bringing them there and say, "Come on, let's go. Don't worry about this one. We are handling it." No, we are going to target the things that follow. We are paying close attention to what he said he will do, what he claims Amazonia is, how he sees it, how he plans towards it, and the statements he has made. He has given us enough clue. That is where the battle is. That is where the guerrilla wins. It's not when you go and take all your arsenals and bring them, and you want us to come and attack you with what we have. No, we have more greater opportunity targets to deal with than those ones that you go and get yourself ready and say, "Come." No, guerrillas don't fight those kind of wars. It's just the expectation out of our frustration. We want something big to just happen right there at that moment. No, but that is not how we have won. That's not how we have taken about 80% control of our rural territories. That all those administrators that were in rural territories have had to relocate to the city area. That is not how we did it. We did not do it by conventional confrontation. We did it by guerrilla warfare strategies.
It is no doubt that his activity or activism or whatever he's doing in the Southern Cameroon is a defiance of our national sovereignty and territorial integrity. But don't you also think that him not contacting your government, like you would have mentioned, is also another provocative attempt to ignore the ability of your government to stop him, or probably to tell the international community, "Hey, listen, we don't think these people are important"? How would you counter that kind of propaganda, or that kind of political stunt, which we know he's trying to do on the ground?
The French don't know anything about negotiation. It is not in their DNA. See how they are losing every fight in Africa. Thinks that they could go in there and discuss and negotiate. They are losing it. They don't know anything about diplomacy. All they know is to do the same old everywhere. Whatever strategy that works for the French, they'll repeat it all over. Even if they are failing, they will keep repeating it. They have refused to dialogue anytime dialogue would have been the best option. They refuse. They don't see it until they lose it. We have written to the French. That was in 2022. We wrote to the French government. We wrote directly to Mr. Macron. We made sure that we did not just mail it, but we also went to the ambassador, their ambassador in Washington, and handed the letters directly to him, so that we are sure that he will deliver it to his boss. We did not even have the courtesy of a reply. And that was when the heat of we're still having the Swiss talks going on. And we had some advice here and there to do that. So we did that. But they kept on telling the Swiss that Cameroon is a sovereign country. You know, when you want to press on the French, they'll say Cameroon is a sovereign country. But when you look at the problem, you discover they are in charge. They can literally leave their embassy and go in the middle of the population and give them assurances. And then when you press the French will say, no, you want me to come and govern? You people have leaders. Africa has leaders. Leaders should decide. And no, none of those leaders have they allowed to decide on anything. So they are in charge. Yeah. So this was a propaganda campaign. So hurting me was not even in any consideration. They were not thinking about the people. They were not thinking about us in any capacity. They were just plan their propaganda thing because they are in denial, because we are not part of the solution. What they know by sending a soldier to Cameroon was, soldier, go and do what soldiers do, advise the République du Cameroun government to do what soldiers do, for the militaries to intensify the military option. That's all he was sent to do. So he was just doing his thing. Matter of fact, he was carrying on the assignment the French gave him. So, but I just want to expose the hypocrisy of this. You cannot assure the diplomatic community that you are trying to find a diplomatic solution, and there is none of that in your agenda. Because you cannot want to find a diplomatic solution without finding a way to connect, to relate with the parties in the conflict. There's no trace of any reply to our request. In that, I don't want to be misunderstood. We did not beg the French in the letter. Of course, there are things you can just know what we wrote to them. We told them.
I was about that.
Yes, we told them that the people of Ambazonia have no problem with the people of France. As an independent nation, we will establish relationship with every country with whom we have common interests. So we are not in this war because it's not a war against the French people in Africa, because we don't want our problem to be likened to every other. A Frenchman has a problem because they say they are now very unpopular. There is anti-French sentiment. This is not one of them. We have no problem with the French people. In fact, we may even do business with the French if our interests agree. But our problem is the system that they have put in place to enslave us through their proxy. If they can disentangle this and understand that we don't need to be enslaved to be a people that we can work together with tomorrow or next tomorrow. So we, rather than trying to be the problem by helping La République du Cameroun to continue on the military option, we pleaded with him that he should rather be part of the solution, join the Swiss in bringing Cameroon to the table, so that this issue can be resolved. And the truth is that no matter how many years we have been oppressed, after our freedom, we will remember in a good way those who were part of our solution. Even an enemy, if he can turn around and be part of the solution, he will be remembered after the victory. That's what we try to do. Try to humanize this struggle, appeal to his conscience. You don't have to keep the Southern Cameroons as slaves for you to have any economic interest in our country. You can do that with integrity by being part of the solution of this injustice that has befallen the people of Southern Cameroon. So we wrote a heart-to-heart letter that could make the French, if they were just ignorant, to understand a little about the people of Southern Cameroon. We are gentle people. We are democratic. Democracy is in our DNA. We are not barbarians. We are
Yeah.
intelligent people. We remember. That is what we're trying to appeal to this man and to this government. We did not have even a reply. So for him to go over there in Bamenda and go and position himself and present himself to people like some diplomat that is working tirelessly to find diplomatic solution, that was a lie. That was a lie for the gallery.
I was actually going to get into the content of the letter, but you're giving to us the highlight of it or the most important aspect of it. What caught my attention is the fact that in spite of that civilized messaging that came from the leadership of the Southern Cameroons, it was despised. Perhaps it's because France actually understands that they do not have any legality in the Southern Cameroons. This leads me to the next thing I want you to talk about. It is difficult for us to have this conversation without actually processing how we got here and probably looking into the way France is directly and indirectly complicating things for the Southern Cameroons, within the Cameroons and beyond. Our history is well known, well written. No French official has officially countered our narrative. But this is a French ambassador claiming responsibility, planning to implant French hegemony in Amazonia. Mr. President, how do you intend to approach the fact that the French government and the ambassador are not only defying our sovereignty, but they are disregarding an endeavor, a gentleman endeavor that you and the government are implementing to probably get them involved? How are you approaching the reaction to that? Because silence is also a statement.
Well, even a motivational speaker cannot motivate a dead man. No matter how many, even you cannot. You can only motivate a living person. You can only encourage somebody who is alive. You cannot encourage a dead man. Since the French, their approach is to encourage Cameroon to stay on the military path and the military option as the solution, we don't have a choice. We don't have the power to change that philosophy. But circumstances have a way to change philosophies, strategies. Yes, circumstances have a way to change strategies. Because when Cameroon eventually, because I can see them drowning, they say they are not drowning, they are a country, right? I can see them drowning. I look at all the indicators of development, all the indicators of stability of any country, all the numbers. I'm looking at them very well. That country is on a steady decline in every index. So, if the French role now has been reduced to, because they are scared of losing everyone, because they have pushed Cameroon to this point of no return, and they don't really have much to do to help Cameroon again. They don't have. They have backed them up to get them funded by IMF. They have backed their loans up until Cameroon has maxed all their credit cards. So there's only so little they can do again. So the decline is steady. It is happening very fast. It is catastrophic. No nation gets to this kind of state where you are losing, you are only bleeding. Nothing is being injected in you. You are only bleeding. Cameroon is bleeding. Very soon, you are going to see that there's no energy. What is motivation to a dead man? Let them go again and come and tell them, no, we must fight. They will ask them, what do you mean by fight? What do we have again left? Because today, individuals are richer than the government. You know, when the end has the people in power are those who see the end before others. You see, when they are looting the way they are looting, you know, they have seen the end too. So that's all. The country is going down. Give them any amount of money, they will not resurrect. Because those who are in the helm of affairs have seen the imminent collapse. And everybody now is thinking about himself first before others. So there's no hope. And nobody is coming from anywhere to invest. Because who invests into a hellhole? Nobody. Nobody. So Eastern capital has flown a long time. It was in 2017 that Total, just at the beginning of the conflict, that Total took out their investment from Cameroon to Cote d'Ivoire. Since it has been flying out. So I want to tell you that let the French, who are losing every battle, they don't want to hurt some people who are called traditional allies. So sometimes they don't even know what to say again. And it's no more popular for them to fly jets to come to Africa to fight wars like they did against Bango. So right now, all they need to do is to show some camaraderie with their so-called counterparts, like the engineer to start this war. So the Cameroon is drowning. They cannot do anything. They can't do anything. The fear of Russia is making them at least to embrace everything in Africa instead of losing everything to Russians. So, but I want to show you that their motivational approach to issues, to just say, yes, continue, we will help you. Don't worry, we shall crush these people. It will work. The strategy will give you, it will work. Very soon they will discover that they were motivating a dead man. And when you motivate a dead man, you get no results. There will be no change. Cameroon is getting to the point where any support, any life support will be a waste of time. Any kind of help will be a waste of time. That is the point where I said that the only solution would be Ambazonia must go. It is better for Ambazonia to go and you survive than Ambazonia to stay and you drown. And so our secret is in our hands. We do whatever we have done that has put Cameroon where it is right now is what we must do to finish it. Some of all these noisemakers around Cameroon, they are noisemakers. They sell them propaganda. You know, when you have lost argument, the only advice is force. But when you are weak and completely exhausted, what's the use of force? How can you use it? How can you use it to keep a country that does not belong to you? So we are ready to fight. And that is why I believe in our Ambazonian state armed forces. You are the best thing that happened in our generation. You are the person. You are the glory of this nation.
We're going to get into the Ambazonian State Army, where I would like you to really speak elaborately. I do not want something you've said there to be diluted, because Ambazonians will get excited, especially looking up to Saturday, the big day. You've mentioned about the fear of Russia, and I want us to talk a little bit on that, because if you listen to Macron, his statements he made in Europe last week, contrary to when he was in Washington, the trajectory is changing. New alliances are being made. You have confirmed from what you just said now that the advice that France is giving to their allies in Cameroon is out of desperation. It has no rationale. It's not properly calculated. Let's look at it this way. Russia might be getting a new alliance if NATO or the West chooses to do what they're doing now. We know what happened last week with Trump and Zelensky. If that happens the way it's going, the partnership in Africa, especially the Gulf of Guinea, that happens to be the richest region, not just around the world, but especially in Africa, might also change. How are you projecting the nation of Ambazonia right now? I know you want to respond to the ambassador. I'm going to come back. How are you projecting the nation of Ambazonia right now? You may want to conceal some of your strategy, but how are you getting us prepared to make adjustments and adapt if in any eventuality?
What do you call the eventuality?
Let's say new partnerships are taking place. The United States of America fully backs Russia. It's going to change the trajectory in Africa. The wars would automatically change. And that's when maybe the allies of Ukraine will realize that Russia would have crushed them out. That would change in Africa. France is creating an alliance, and the current administration in Africa's economic giant, Nigeria, is opening their arms with France in a way that even the people of Nigeria are not happy. Look at Ambazonia in the middle. Biya is trying to create a relationship. French Cameroon is trying to go towards Russia. It's kind of complex, but how are we getting ourselves ready to approach this situation? Because it could change so rapidly within just a matter of weeks if things are not properly handled from Washington to Kiev and Paris to London.
Okay, let me make my honest analysis. I hope I'm not teaching La République du Cameroun anything here.
Please don't.
That they will glean from my statement, and I know how to approach things. The French have chosen their side in Ukraine. They will stand with Ukraine. And that means they will be enemies to Russia. That's it. Because their destiny is tied more with Russia, with Ukraine in Europe, on the Ukrainian side, on the European side, than with Russia. So there's no changing of position. They will do everything to convince every French citizen to support Ukraine. That's their destiny. Now, if Russia loses and continues to suffer the pain from the French actions in Europe, they will do more in Africa to hurt the French. So those who are looking for alliances, those anti-French movements that are looking for alliances, will get a ready friend with Russia and their allies. So if Russia, in that reasoning, decide to take over, come forcefully in Yaoundé to take over the seat of government, as they have done in some other countries around the sub-Saharan Africa and even the Central African sub-region, if they decide to do that, then the kind of relationship Russia has with America under President Trump is nothing strong and steady that you can say there is a new alliance in place. This is a temporal thing. It's not something that America will send its soldiers to fight side by side with Russia on any field of war. It's just a temporal thing. And it's all tied to the president who we have today in the United States. So that means that the French will be on their own if that happens. And the French will not give up Cameroon to the Russians if that is the case. Anybody that approaches the Russians to bring in the Russians will cause the French to arm the other faction. That's why there are many factions in Yaoundé. So Cameroon will be in a full-fledged civil war situation. So anyone will be in a full-fledged civil war situation. America will not, because of their love of Russia, come in to support either side. Their relationship is not up to that level with Russia. So Cameroon will be in a mess of instability and insecurity. generalized civil war, probably civil war situation. And I believe that that is where a people like America, who are now whose leadership is now defined by interests, will find where their interest is. Will their interest be to come and fight a fight that does not concern them in Yaoundé, or to stand with their natural ally? So anything that will bring war and instability in Yaoundé, from Yaoundé epicenter, will accelerate our departure. So I've seen the configuration coming. They will not be lost in this equation. I can tell you that very well, because I see the writing on the wall before it becomes clear.
Now let's get into the statement you have for the French ambassador, who would probably be watching this program and trying to see how to strategize. I know you're not happy with whatever activity was done. What is that information you have for him before we move forward?
Well, I've just simply told him that everything he did was null and void. Everything he said was a lie. He's not part of any solution. He should rather go and tell his government that if they are serious for a solution, they should look into the letter that we wrote to their government in 2022. If you respond to that letter, we'll know you are part of a solution. So that's hypocrisy, and that those are lies they are selling to the international community. And this is the message to the EU, that stop believing in a drowning horse. Stop believing in a drowning horse. You cannot continue to get assurances from a drowning horse like the French. They are full of lies and dishonesty. They are not part of any solution that I know to restore peace in Amazon. If they mean that, if their only solution is to fight and back Cameroon up, to encourage them to continue the military option, and that's how peace will return, that's how to bring peace on a political question, then he is lying. And just to tell Mr. Ambassador that it's just a warning. The Southern Cameroons were not there in 1957-58 when you signed your accord de coopération with the République Outre-mer Cameroun. We were not part of it, and we were not part of that configuration that you call your country. When you signed those treaties, were not part of it. So the Southern Cameroons have never, by any means, come under your dominion. We are not part of your hegemony. So when you stepped across the Matazan and entered Bamenda, you actually entered another country, not the French overseas territory of the French of the La République du Cameroun. That was, and that is, the Southern Cameroons, the British Cameroons. You have no right, no power to be there unless you are authorized to do so. And that we understand that you came there to promote the same thing that you started in the first place, by encouraging the French Cameroon that we wanted to unite with. We expressed our desire to. But you told them that you should not unite with. Why should you unite with them instead of just annexing them? Why should you sign an agreement of union with them instead of just annexing them? You caused the problem in the first place. So by that we have never been part of your proxy. You have no right. We have not given you a right of entry in our country. So all this that the French and the ambassador, Mr. Marchand, is doing is provocation. Is provocation. Our people are peaceful. Even the people you paid some peanuts to dance in our cultural center are gentle people. But I beg you and any other EU ambassador who was persuaded or convinced by the theatrics and the games and the propaganda that was organized to tell you, don't in any day of the month take a stroll to Bamenda to say you want to go and do this and do that because the French ambassador gave you those assurances. Because that day you will not be there with the hundreds of bees and soldiers that the French ambassador mobilized just for the cameras. If you try to do that, you might be surprised. Stop provoking the people who are already crying and who have been crying for too long. Because even as I speak to you, I will not be able to guarantee your security, even if you wanted me to do so. So stop coming to, you have free, your office, where you consider the French territory, is within the premises of your embassy. Stay there and make your statement. The highest thing an ambassador should do is to offer press statements or call the press for an interview. Not to go around crossing people's territories, provoking them in tears, when they're in tears, and making promises which are just white elephants, lies, that you're lying. If you do that again, and anybody who is convinced by the games that he played, because in 2023, the State Department sent a delegation to Amazonia to go and do certain things. I was consulted before they left. The Cameroon state said they may not be able to go to Bamenda. Did not go. The UN Commission for Human Rights and the ICC, they sent people to Cameroon recently. I was aware of their movements. They were told that they should not go to Bamenda, even though they went to Bamenda. They went there on their own. And I assured them that there will be nothing will happen to them. They went to Bamenda. But now, this is the French ambassador mobilizing not just his office, but 6 different ambassadors to go and do a military diplomatic show of force. Don't do that when you are just sitting by yourself. You want to go to Bamenda or anywhere in the southern Cameroons, because you will not have mobilized what he mobilized for those photo ops and those pictures, and you will know that we are at war. That's when you will know that he lied to you. So that's my warning. Don't say I did not tell you. Amazonia is at war with the Republic of Cameroon, supported by the French. That's the fact.
Mr. President, just to acknowledge that fact, you have said some things here that present to the world the clear distinction of systems and why the people of the Southern Cameroons are avoiding the French system entirely. This is the United States of America, the world superpower, a State Department which is one of the most important organs of the United States government, consults you as a legitimate stakeholder of the conflict before visiting the nation of Amazonia. The ICC would notify your office, but the French will just get themselves in and out and take pictures and videos and will despise a letter. That's quite remarkable. Now, talking about deception, which you have countered by talking or addressing the French ambassador directly, we have even within Amazonia a lot of people deceiving others on issues like the ICC. With your permission, Mr. President, I'd like you to talk again. There's a lot. We interviewed you sometime last year on this, but so much has happened. And Masanga, with the help of certain failures within the struggle of frontline leaders, in quotes, are still making claims. Perhaps you want to talk to the people of Amazonia and the world again with regards to the ICC indictment of Biya.
Well, first off, I want to thank the prosecutor General of the ICC, Mr. Khan, he is outstanding. He has made the court to be what it's supposed to be in a multipolar world, because the court's supposed to be independent and non-aligned. It has to be, for it to be objective, to be an objective body that can really enforce international law. I really greet him. I greet Mr. Khan, because if he was not who he is, he would not have taken on a member of the UN Security Council, the president of a member of the UN Security Council. He would have not issued an arrest warrant for Putin. No. Members of the Security Council are the untouchables. He would have not issued an arrest warrant on Mr. Netanyahu. My personal reservations on the issue notwithstanding, but the fact that he went against the dictates of the United States, he went against the thinking of the international community, he went against the power of the Russians, and just looked at the hard facts before him and took decisions. I salute him for that courage. I hope he will be there again for a long time, because the world doesn't like people like that. So we wrote to him while in that office, and I want to tell Amazonians again, because I've said it before, we did not write a petition in the very definition of the word petition. A petition is a protest letter. We did not write a protest letter to the court. We wrote a judicial complaint. A judicial complaint is different from just a mere protest. Anyone can write a protest letter. Do you know how many people have written protest letters to the court, to the government, to do something? A protest letter is no. There's injustice, you have to do something. People are dying, you have to do something. That's a protest letter. You can call it a petition. But we wrote a judicial complaint. Let me tell you what the difference is between a judicial complaint and a mere protest letter. In a judicial complaint, you have to cite the acts that have been committed. If there are 1,000 of them, cite them, as many as you can remember. Provide ample evidence to support your allegations. Even cite names that investigators can contact. Because you are talking to an investigation body. So if you don't give them enough reason to think that a crime has truly been committed, not because you are angry, not because you are crying, then you are not giving enough evidence to show that crime is high probability that the crime was committed. And number two, that this is this evidence is compelling enough. They will not take it on. They will just say, okay, we have heard, but we have not really received anything. So then number two, you have to make sure that your request meets jurisdictional conditions of the court. The court does not interfere in everything. You need to, as in a judicial complaint, you have to make sure that you meet the jurisdictional requirement of the court. Otherwise, you are wasting your time. We did all that. I can proudly tell you that we, in this government, we did all that. Anybody who feels that it's unfortunate they did not do it, and we should not take the glory, in my language we say Asia. We did it. We met the jurisdictional requirement of the court, and our complaint was so compelling that even when the investigators went on the ground for the first time, they had what to work with. They knew who to talk to. They were not going to beaten about the bush. In a judicial complaint, you know who to talk to. You don't waste time. You know where to start, what you are investigating, who you are going after. Let anybody who said that he did the same as we did since 2020 and did what I qualify as truly a judicial complaint that meets these standards of the court. Let him tell us what were the crimes that he cited, who were the evidences that he cited. I mean, what were the evidences that he cited in his complaint, and what was the response of the court? So we did this. I'm not saying that we have already freed Ambazonia, but we took that step and it worked. Please, let's forget about that and let's go forward. And I hear some nonsense flying around that the French have stalled the investigation through the United Nations Security Council. You know, some people, for want of relevance, just say things that they don't even know what they are talking about. They don't even know what the hell they are talking about. You know, the United Nations Security Council does not write the agenda of the ICC. No. It's an international court, right? It makes its reports. It reports to the United Nations and so on. But there is a separation. It is not the United Nations Security Council that determines the agenda of the court, what the court can do and what the court cannot do. Remember, Russia is part of the court. Right? I mean, it's part of the United Nations Security Council. If it's the United Nations Security Council that determines what the court can do, who the court can take on, and who the court cannot take on, what matter the court can handle, and which matter the court should drop. How did the issue get to the United Nations and to the ICC to the point that Russia, Putin, was issued an arrest warrant? How did he not use his veto power in the Security Council? If it's the Security Council that determines what the International Criminal Court can handle or not. If it's the International Court UN Security Council that determines what the International Criminal Court can handle and not handle, how did the Israel get to the agenda with so much opposition from the United States? A bipartisan opposition from the United States, right up to their ambassador in the United Nations. How did they succeed to still have the issue on their agenda when the United States, the number one nation in the Security Council, was against? So please, take away the United Nations Security Council on this matter that concerns the ICC. No. The ICC at least makes their decisions. The image of the ICC depends on the head of the ICC. Every court in every country, even the freest country in the world, like America, the image of the Supreme Court depends on who are the judges of the Supreme Court. It doesn't matter whether it is a Republican president or it's a Democratic president or an independent president. It all depends on, the image depends on who is sitting at the court at that time. And that's why I gave my kudos to Mr. Khan. And that's the man he has presented himself enough to the world. He is not a puppet, as he has shown himself, a puppet to any master. He's just a judge. He's just a prosecutor. So that's what it is. Let nobody tell you any bogus story that there is France who have gone to the Security Council and they have moved the International Criminal Court to suspend their investigation on Cameroon. That's lies. No, because Mr. Khan has not shown himself to be that kind of person. Or if he has changed, tell me that he has changed. Because he did not. If he was only thinking about funding, he will not come against the America or Israel. Anything that has to do with money in this world, you will not dare come against America and Israel. And knowing their family of allies, you will not come against them. So that's not the type of person he is. I want to assure you that the investigation started and they are going on and they will go on. I know that there are other 2 territories that are involved in this investigation. Our judicial complaint that was lodged, and those people who say that they were part of it, maybe they should be the one to tell you where the court is going next. Yes, because I knew before they came to Cameroon. So they that say that they are the witnesses to the court because they are the ones who presented the petition. Maybe they should be telling you where they are going next. They should not come and use a blanket lie to escape the question and say France has just passed through the Security Council to block the investigation. Lies. No.
Mr. President, you're saying this, and I'm going through the comment sections of the post we did the other day, and there are lots of concerns. We've been able to go through that and assemble some of the questions that I've already presented to you. But we understand that the debunking you're doing right now is based on mostly what Ambazonians are enabling, with the involvement of Masanga, who has been the champion, going from one place to another making statements. Now, it relates with Ambazonia not having a formidable force. You have addressed the aspect of unity and so on and so forth. This is not a distraction of the topic, because I have another question on the ICC I want to ask you. This is an Ambazonian with the name Fombi Kubzandie. He comes under the post instead of putting a question, and he makes a statement in a question form. He says, Sako, are you the accomplice, or are you an accomplice to every negativity in Southern Cameroon? I don't know if you wish to react to that, but I think it's related to what has been said in different platforms, especially when your government comes out to say, listen, we did this. Some of them feel like, okay, you're discrediting others to credit the government. You're narrowing everything about government. Your audio the other day, you were even praying that some of these members are not part of the government because of their Confucianism. How do you relate when an Ambazonian shares such sentiments?
You know, people have their own opinions, and I cannot blame them for that. If you think that whatever you define as negative, if you are thinking that I'm the source of all negativity in Southern Cameroon, I just wish that the person said a little more, just maybe a little more, I would have understood his thinking. But let me give you this, let me ask you this question. If you say that there are many capitals of Ambazonia, there are more than 4 capitals of Ambazonia. There are more than 4 capital cities in Ambazonia. And you know that is a lie. Then I come around to correct you, to tell you that Buea is the only capital of the Southern Cameroon. Is that negativity? Okay, to some it will be negativity. They will say, why did you correct him? You should have just allowed him so that he will not be negative. So you see how some people define negativity? When you come with the truth and decide to emphasize the truth, they say you are negative. You should have just allowed it Allow the lie to just fly so that you will not be negative. So that's why I say people have a right to their opinions and their definitions, but the people too have a right to judge your definition and my definition and see which one is right. One thing I will do, and I try to do very well, is to insist on the truth. So how you define it, it doesn't really matter to me. Now, because I will not allow the lies to fly just because I don't want to be seen as negative. No, I'm not. Am I the source of which negativity? What's negative? What's negative to say that, stop it, you did not do it? We did it. That's the fact. If what I said is the truth and the fact, what's negative in it? But isn't it what is negative in it is for anybody to tell a lie and go to the extent of saying that Sako deceived people that there is collecting money that he want to take people to ICC and he ate that money, but he did it and not Sako. That sounds like a politician. It doesn't sound like somebody independent trying to help us. How do you make that kind of statement? Who told you that Sako ate money that was put together that they want to go and hire lawyers? Sako ate the money. Who makes that kind of statement? If you are not doing a hit job from the enemy, which report was published out saying that Sako indeed ate money, that somebody from somewhere will come around and make that kind of statement. Then when I tried to correct the person, they said, no, it is wrong. You are being negative. What's negative? So you have right to define whatever. The one thing I would do vigorously is to correct the truth, especially when I know it. If I don't know it, blame me for saying it without knowing it, but I know this. And I know a little more on this issue. So I tell you what it is. Everybody anywhere who wants to help Amazonia is welcome. But you don't have to come make your way in by elbowing some people, making them look bad so that you do good. I don't have to. I did not sit one day and say, how do I talk evil about somebody so that I can be seen to be somebody? No. No. It's not my style. I do my thing. If you do your thing, do it there. Don't try to make your relevance by running down what we did. In fact, if we counted the hours, you are talking of hundreds of hours of work, real work, passing it through experts that help us. And we did that. Then you come from nowhere and say, he is an imposter. Then when I go out to correct it, say, I have a problem because I'm promoting negative. Well, you can call it that. You can call it that. But don't play with the truth. Because if I know it, I will defend it vigorously. That's what I do. If you call
Mr.
it right, somebody else judge between us. Who is proud? The one who peddles the lie or the one who insists on the truth?
Mr. President, we are approaching the climax of this conversation, and I happen to know the efforts you've been putting in, not just on defense or the homeland security, but with Amazonia knocking doors. I like to use your words, creating relationships and knocking doors. You've even sent out an audio advising Amazonians on how to get themselves, those who are at the borders, those who are in territories hoping for solutions, and as Washington is drifting. I'd like us to talk a little bit about Washington right now, the Kansas City 3, and TPS. What is Amazonia's hope based on your involvement, your activity and endeavors? What is Amazonia's hope within these first 100 days? What are you anticipating? What is your realistic expectation within the first 100 days of the Trump's administration?
I don't think by June will not go outside the 100 days. So, but I can tell you that the TPS shall be, well, I'm not the one approving the TPS, but we have done everything that we need to do as a government to ensure that the TPS is extended. And we are still doing it as I speak to you now. So we'll make sure that those people who are protected, who are the Southern Cameroon, those who can vouch for, who are in the system, and who are already in this country, who have been granted the TPS also, or those who are whose application are being considered, to be sure that the problem, the TPS is renewed in come June this year. So that we are not sleeping. For our Kansas 3, we are not sleeping either. Yes, we are making sure that the offices are open and that we do the necessary this year, because some of the offices are not yet open. So that's the fact. When a new administration comes in place, all offices don't open the next day. Some of the offices are not yet open. So we are going to do everything, and as we are doing right now, to ensure that justice is not only seen to be done, but that it is done to the people of Southern Cameroon. We are going to ensure that the double standard is addressed by no one else but the Trump administration. Because if there's anyone who is aware of the instrumentalization of the justice system for political goals, is Mr. Trump himself. He knows that story in an experiential way, and he understands it when we say so. We are going to do our best. I can tell you again, we are not sleeping. That's why I want to say, if you want to see real results and not talk, if these issues are of any concern to you, and not just some political talk in some place to feel good, then come and support us, because we are going to do just that. That's what we are doing. Support us. If you say you really want to see these things, but you call people and tell them don't support us, it means you're lying. Because outside our court, who else cares? Who else will mobilize? Who else will put down the resources except this government to make these things happen? That is the fact. So I am saying that put your money where your mouth is. All these issues that people ask, I want to see this on the ground. And what about this? When is this one happening? What about the American government? What about the court? What about this? All those things means, my question would be, what about the resources? So if you say you really, really want those things, stop talking about them. Stop talking about them.
Do something.
Do something about it. And let me know your desire by the level of your sacrifice. Then I know that you really desire to see this thing, because it cannot happen. We are doing footwork diplomacy now. A lot of footwork, heavy footwork diplomacy. How is that going to happen? If you say, I want to know, people say, Mr. President, can you explain to me? No, it's not explanation now. If you desire to see these things, then just be numbered. If you don't want to be available on Wednesday, on Friday, go and draft. Draft now. They ask me a question later. I will be morally bound to tell you something about what we are doing or not doing. But if you don't, and you say, but you know me how I love Ambazonia, that's why I'm asking. When people are like that, they will tell you, I love Ambazonia to the core. I want Ambazonia to be free. I will fight to the end. That's talk. If you want to see these things we talk about here right now being done, then I'm here for that. Do what you have to do. Draft the draft you need to draft. Let us do the things we ought to do.
We are still coming with the draft, Mr. President. When I have the opportunity to have you, I don't want to let you out of the hook. You've said some things. You have reservations with the way the administration's opinion with Netanyahu, or what the ICC has done with Netanyahu, and I don't know what that means. And you're not obliged to also answer it. You've also mentioned about Putin, but I'm looking at Washington, because my question centers on the first 100 days and our expectation. Are you comfortable with the way the Trump's administration is approaching conflicts of the world? It's true that he has not been very directly involved. He has just cited the conflict with Rwanda and Congo, but he has not been very involved. Not just the West is despising Africa in a way that is unfortunate, but are you comfortable with Trump's approach? We have always seen Ukraine as the oppressed, and there are those who think that Ukraine is currently being bullied for a peace deal. Peradventure, we come to that stage. Our situation is different anyway. That's not our expectation. We get to a stage where we are being bullied to accept a peace deal, probably before negotiations begin. So two things. Are you comfortable with that? And the style could just be implemented with us as oppressed in a conflict with French Cameroon. What are you thinking if we get to that juncture?
I don't think that the world is trying to impose. The intention of President Trump is not to impose a particular solution, but is to give negotiation a chance. Because Ukraine was locked into a strategy of fighting to win, and which is impossible for Ukraine to do. And the former world, or the world order prior to, which is still there, prior to Trump, wanted to keep that stalemate, that war of attrition, just to use that to crumble Russia. The intention was to crumble Russia's power and influence in the world by using Ukraine as a proxy. That's the way. That's my analysis. I might be wrong. But so that they have molded President Zelensky into a position where he must not accept any kind of negotiation. Russia must bow. If they don't bow now, they'll bow tomorrow, until they will go down to their knees. Economically, they will be so weak that they will not be looking for places abroad in order to fight against American interests or Western interests. So I believe that diplomacy between nations, I don't like this idea of one country fathers another country. That's why I'm in agreement with President Trump. What is all this? This country is my father, the other one is my father. Why can't we have independent countries that only relate by interest, by common interest? That's what independence and sovereignty is supposed to mean. The world should be made up of sovereign nations that have relationships. Not always my father here, this is the father to this one, the other one is the father to this one. That kind of fatherhood amongst nations. Like France will be there saying that all these colonies in Africa they are my children. No, why? No. I believe that Africa will get to a position where they are independent indeed.
Yeah.
They are independent indeed, and they will deal with anybody, any superpower, or according to their bilateral terms that they are going to define. If America wants to deal with Ambazonia, they should not deal with Ambazonia like one of their 51st state or one of their children, where they will just take a phone and call and they do what they want. Why is it like that between among nations? Why should it be like that? No. Trump's position is to encourage nationalists that think about your country. Think first about your country. It's America first. Think first about your country. Yes, we can have a relationship. Come to the table and let's make a deal. If the deal is good for you, you sign on the dotted line. If it's good for me, I sign on the dotted line. Isn't it how nations supposed to be? Why is it that some nations have to call other nations and ask them what to do before they do? That's going to stop. America has already seen that that's the direction of things happening in the world.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the direction of things happening. You see all those countries that France has lost and so on. America can call them now and say, let us talk. They will talk as two equal nations and they will make a deal. America will still protect her interests. It's a world where bilateral relationship will supersede all these multilateral things that people do, which sometimes are not to the benefit of some. They are benefiting some, not all.
Yeah. Especially the
So we
situation
have
in the Cameroon now is really not benefiting
positioned
us.
ourselves because we understand. We understand.
Yeah.
We understand what I understand exactly what he's saying, and I agree with that. And to say that they will come and impose us a position, I don't see even America coming to impose any position with us, on us.
Yeah.
No. And if they are even having a say over Ukraine, it's because they have spent about $111 billion supporting Ukraine. If you have put that kind of money into anything that has no end in view, at
Now,
least, and you think that
300 and close to 400 billion US dollars has been given to Ukraine for 3 years just for the
yeah,
war.
but those numbers have been disputed seriously
Okay.
by some in the press because so that's why I limit myself to the 111 that even Zelensky has accepted. So the thing is, some of that money did not get to Ukraine. It was
Oh,
simply yes, materials were paid for in the United States to be supplied. So you can call that a gift to Ukraine, but Ukraine for Ukraine to account for it is difficult to really account. They have to start from the United States, then to get to Ukraine to know exactly how much they receive. You see, so if America has a say in a conflict like that, it is primarily because they want to cut it off. The bleeding has to end somewhere, and they needed to say to tell make this man to know that you were not fighting this to win. Okay, just let us be realistic. Was Ukraine fighting Russia to win? Are you kidding me? No, they were fighting for a draw position so that they will go to the table. I wonder why they had not realized that that it was time to get to the table, so that they will listen to each other. So I'm sure Trump is trying to precipitate that moment. They need to
yeah.
talk and agree. Now, unfortunately, I don't know whether you can miss your moment. Sometimes you miss your moment in a negotiation. I don't know at what moment this would have been the best for Ukraine to come to the table. Maybe before certain territories were taken from them, or maybe at a certain point there was a time that could be the best thing to do. Because I know that Russia has been looking for negotiation because they have their deals written. They don't want Ukraine to join NATO, and that is something to easily agree on. Even if in the next
Yeah.
50 years you think joining NATO, agree on that as a principle. So they refused that moment, they missed it. So Mr. Trump is saying that you have to, in principle, accept that negotiation now. Otherwise, we are not going to continue this bleeding. We are the ones bleeding. Not you are bleeding blood, but we are bleeding finances, and we have to cut it off somewhere. We are not going to spend another 300 billion in the next 4 years just because of Ukraine. No. So if they accept that he is going to negotiate now, then that negotiation will be, that's where other parties can come in, give and take, and then they can arrive at a solution. Of course, every negotiation, you have people inside and outside who will try to muscle the process in order to get certain outcomes. But you have to be tough. You have to be tough. You have to know what you want, and you have to know when to let go. You have to know when to hold. So I don't think I will get to that point if I am in charge in this, or I'm involved in this process, that somebody will just come and unilaterally tell Ambazonians that is what Ambazonians should do or must do. No, we are not beholden to anybody. Nobody, no country has given us so much money that they have such a stake that they have to dictate to us about the outcome of this struggle. Not yet. So that's the way I look at the situation.
You know, I kind of anticipated your response to this particular question, because it's important every time we have the chance to converse with you for us to have you continuously tell the world our position. Your government has proven for the past 5 years that they're open to negotiations, especially any respectful negotiation. And I've heard from 2 people already, you making the third. I've heard from Trump, from Pastor Chris Oyakhilome, and you, that globalization is kind of fraudulent. It is a smoke screen, a kind of redesignation of colonialism, which Trump is totally against it. And that's why he's encouraging nationalism. Mr. President, this brings us to the critical point of tonight's conversation, that would have to do with what Ambazonians must do to get all your strategic involvement in diplomacy, in advocacy, in homeland security and everything. But before we even get to that, I'd like us to have this brief, I would call it a report break on what is happening on the ground. We'll be back so that you can talk to us, not necessarily taking questions at this time, but tell us what we as Ambazonians would have to do to enable you keep on charting the course.
Fellow Amazonians, televiewers of ABC Amba Television, ladies and gentlemen, today is Tuesday, March 4, 2025, and we are here in Sopui County, where Major General Viper, Supreme Commander of the Amazonian Air Force, has released on French Cameroon terrorist soldiers on board an armored vehicle the full measure of the source from which the sun draws its energy.
Confident one, live video. This one at ambush unit for Wainama. Yes, for SOP live, confident one. Shake no day, confident one.
It all started with an improvised explosive device detonated on target and dismantling an armored vehicle, and was immediately followed by rockets launched in quick succession on another full to capacity with La République du Cameroun terrorist soldiers. The well-calculated ambush by the Wainama ASA ambush unit was a lightning surprise that made La République du Cameroun terrorist soldiers confused, obfuscated, overwhelmed, and unable to hit back. The exact number of casualties remains known only to the victims, but one thing remains certain. Colossal damage has been inflicted by the Amazonian State Armed Forces in Bui County on the invading French Cameroon forces of terror and mass murder. Ladies and gentlemen, When accosted by this ABC TV correspondent, Major General Paddy assured Ambazonians of their unwavering determination and commitment to set homeland free and stated that, quote-unquote, time is already running out for the Republic of Cameroon terrorist forces of occupation in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. For ABC Amba Television, this is General Hanok reporting live from Sop Drekpa LGA Bui County, Federal Republic of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia.
Mr. President, we've seen it all. We've seen improvised explosives so often, but very rarely we wake up in the morning and see a targeted rocket launcher. It only advises us of the military hardware that the Ambazonian State Army in the entire county of Bui is currently in possession. And not just what they're in possession of, it also tells us their mastery of this hardware. It's quite inspiring to see that this is happening few hours away of a day that probably you needed to convince Ambazonians of the work that you're doing for diplomacy, advocacy, and probably homeland security. Maybe you want to talk to us, sir.
Yes. First off, I want to appreciate all the Ambazonian State Armed Forces and proud generals like General Viper, as I hear from there, from General Hanok's reporting from Bui, and generals like Tokandu, General Wonyo, Newsman, and the General Boy, and other generals that we have, like Mad Dog, like some other generals that we have in Bui who have kept Bui so hot. We have General the Only Bro in Goketunja. We have other generals in Dogamantung. We have generals there. Some of them don't even like us to call their names, so that the war remains the war of the Ambazonian State Armed Forces. Right up to Boyo and our generals. First of all, I want to tell you that this is just a reminder. They are telling you that they are in charge. Running on our road does not put you in charge. If you cannot live with the people, you are not in charge. If you cannot live with the people that you say you are there to keep as a captive, you cannot live with that person, you are not in charge. This is just to remind you that our able Ambazonian State Armed Forces are still the ones in charge. It's a reminder that what we have to do, we should do it, because they are still there. I want to inform us that sometimes there is quietness. Quietness is not peace. Quietness at times is the absence of a target or the absence of an adversary. If the adversary is not around, if he's just driving his car and passing and he's gone and he's nowhere to be found in the next 2 weeks, what will happen? Nothing will happen. And the place will be quiet, but that is not peace. The only day peace they will return is when we sit with our Ambazonian State Armed Forces and say, here is the resolution of this conflict. This is the objective we are all fighting for. We have achieved it. Hooray! Viva the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. And now we will recognize all your efforts. And then they voluntarily lay down their arms. That's when peace returns. So when you see this, is a reminder of the thousands and thousands more that were just holding their forts in their trenches. They are not Viper. Tokandu is not here. Wonyo is not here. But this is just Viper. So let us do everything to put all of them out there at once, so that when they are visited with a one stone like this, by the time they get to the next 2-3 kilometers, another battalion visits them. That's how it has to be, and that means resources. That means we have to do everything it takes for us to to support them. Support them. Because these people are not there to protect anybody. They are being assigned to kill us and kill our people. That's why when they lose the war, they go to our compounds, they go to our houses, they catch our women, our children, our innocent one in just sitting, relaxing, shooting them, killing them, and these days telling everyone that they are Amazonians, that they killed. But they cannot do that against any of our generals or their battalions in Bui, Goketunja, or Dongamantum, or Menchum, or Boyo. So the draft this Saturday, it is the ASA of these 5 counties that are hosting the federal government and calling on Amazonians to donate to the federal government so that we can help them. That is the reason for this Saturday's draft. It is not for me. It is not for anybody you know in this government. It is for them. We already started building a strategy of what must be done, what should be done with what we are going to gather this year. And some of the generals, we have a way to talk with them so we know what they are thinking. Some of them have found ways to send us messages about what they are thinking and how they are strategizing with the ANSC. We are going to do everything possible. You should be there. You have sung a lot that you will never stop your journey halfway until you reach Boya. Those are words that we spoke once upon a time. But right now, if you don't come and draft, it means you have suddenly stopped your journey halfway. Now we are not ready, we are not yet in Boya because you said until we reach Boya. I'm calling on you to do everything to support those who are still standing, because we must fight until we reach Boya. Because words alone cannot take us to Boya. Chants alone cannot take us to Boya. What we do in support of those who are still standing is what matters in this struggle. So I'm calling on us. Any reason that you have not to give is a fabricated reason. It's a saboteur. It's from saboteurs. It's sabotage. It's a part of a ploy to defund the struggle. Because let me tell you, if everybody does, ask yourself, there's one philosopher who said, if you should ask yourself always, he said, if everybody does what I do, how good will that be? If you are not drafting because you have a good reason, I hate this man, I hate that one, some commander stole money and so on, I'm not drafting. Okay, let's follow your logic. If everybody does what you are going to do on Saturday, will there be a struggle again? We will still be here having a struggle to manage. If everybody does, I want to say that if everybody does what I will do on Saturday, there will be a struggle. We will still be here to do. But if you will not, because you have good reasons not to give, if everybody also followed your good reasons and will not give, will there be a struggle? I want you to just think about that. I want you to think about that. And imagine that you receive a call, like I receive calls, and say, Papa, what are we going to do next? How long are we going to remain here? Can you tell them that you are on your own because on Saturday I will do nothing? Because I'm very angry. I will not give anything. I'm tired. Will you tell them that? Then they will tell you, did we not say that until we reach Boya? Where are we now? I'm here to encourage us that there is a generation that is called to fight. You came out, so you are numbered among them. We are that the generation that came to liberate Ambazonia. You see this America we are in? There was a generation that came out to fight for it. They fought, some paid with their blood. Any country you are in, even the France, they fought until they beheaded their own king. There was a generation that came out to fight to say, no, things must change, this must end. And every country in the world, they fought. So, this is our generation. This is our generational assignment. Unless you want to die and resurrect in another generation, this is our assignment. So it is for us to do our best now and be counted. Another generation will come to remember what you did and what I did. That's my appeal to all of us. Do your mind. The people on the ground don't have a choice to surrender. Don't have a choice to refuse to do something. If they do that, they are killed. For them, it is about their life. For you and me, it's about our substance. If anyone tells you to abandon those people and do nothing, for whatever good reason you are giving, that person is telling us to surrender. But he doesn't know how to say surrender. He's saying, stop doing what we decided to do in 2017. Stop doing it now. So that when nobody can do anything, those that are depending on our support will also give up and the struggle will end. No. I still remember a phrase that we say, until the last man standing. Are you going to be that last man? Or you are going to be among those that quit on Ambazonia? That is my appeal to you. Come on Saturday.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing, Mr. President. Thank you for joining this exclusive interview with us. The publicity for Saturday's program will be sent right after this image. We believe that the people of Ambazonia have not just enjoyed this discussion, they would have been educated and the world would also have been informed. Thank you. We've taken more than enough of your time, close more than 90 minutes of your time. We previewed 90 minutes, but we're happy that you created the time for us. Until Saturday, thank you for coming, Mr. President. Fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen, that was it from the President. And the tagline was, we fight until the last man standing. We fight until we reach Boya. It was Tarh Paddy King. See you on Saturday. The number one most important thing for every Ambazonian to do right now is the draft. We stand at the threshold of an existential struggle, a pivotal juncture in our proud history that brooks no failure, tolerates no hesitation. So we will draft incessantly, individually, within the warm, vibrant tapestries of our communities. We will draft. We must draft. Draft, for in this paramount task, our draft lies the power to liberate Ambazonia.